Good morning, guys. If you want to grab a seat. It is wonderful to see you here today. I want to introduce myself to those of you I don't know. I'm Heather McCormick. I'm class of 2008. I'm the management team of 2011 and joined the board of the Washington Ireland programme in 2012. And it's a great privilege to be here with you today. We've got a fantastic lineup of speakers. I'm really looking forward to hearing from the class of 2017. And today we're really exploring a shared vision for the future of the island of Ireland. And the class of 2017 have been active in debating all summer and getting towards these policy papers, which you see in front of you today. I want to say a special thanks actually to the University of Notre for hosting us this morning in this fabulous location. And I'm really thrilled as well that we have special guests with us this morning, including Antishak Leo-Varadkar, TD, Jake Sullivan, who many of you may have met in your summers in Washington, D.C., and Martin Dyar, our writer in residence at the Washington Ireland programme. We're also delighted to have our board member and incoming chair of the board of the Washington Ireland, Dyar with us. So please do take the time during the break to connect with colleagues and to meet new and friendly faces. As I said, today the purpose is really to share a vision of how Northern Ireland and Ireland might begin to engage with the major issues that shape our island in the near future. The students will share their reflections on a summer of debates in DC, looking at the economy, at issues of identity, and about managing migration. They'll be joined by guest panelists as well, coming from business, government, and the arts. And I want to remind you that today is a dialogue. For those of you who are alumni of the Washington Ireland programme, you'll be very familiar with this idea that we're here, the Washington Ireland programme is here to support those from all backgrounds and communities who aspire to lead. We aim to contribute to the peace and prosperity across Northern Ireland and Ireland. And as part of that, the importance of dialogue, discussion, and debate is fundamental. The to and fro, the back and forth, the differences in opinion, the diversity of our backgrounds, that is what makes the Washington Ireland programme such a unique experience. And as I said, we're delighted that this morning Martin Dyar is going to open up this morning's discussion, really thinking and reflecting on that idea of dialogue. Martin joined as the writer in residence for WIP back in January of this year, and he's worked really closely with the WIP students and alumni in developing their skills to really imagine and create those possibilities for the future and how to articulate those. He's a graduate of NUI Galway and of Trinity College Dublin. And I'm amazed actually by all of the honours that his poetry has received. So I'll just try and name a few. His poetry collection, Maiden Names, was shortlisted for the Pigott Poetry Prize in 2014. And the Books of the Year selection on both The Guardian and The Irish Times. He won the Patrick Kavanagh Poetry Award in 2009 and the Strokestown International Poetry Award in 2001. With a PhD in English Literature from Trinity College Dublin, where he was a lecturer for 10 years in the School of Medicine. He's also a Fellow of the International Writing Programme at the University of Iowa and currently teaches the MA in Writing at NUI Galway. So can you please put your hands together to welcome Martin Dyar.
Thank you very much, Heather. Good morning, everybody. The Washington Ireland programme, it seems to me, is founded on two visionary understandings, both of which inform the WIP ethos and the WIP experience, and go some way towards explaining the organisation's success. Firstly, as an organisation which offers a profound leadership development opportunity to Irish students of outstanding potential, I needn't say that perhaps in the present company, WIP perceives that the individual qualities that are essential to a meaningful and effective pursuit of positive social change cannot manifest without direct and deliberate encouragement. Secondly, from its earliest days, the WIP community in Ireland and the US has accepted that positive social change is neither a simple nor a short-term objective. And as such, a sense of radical patience has long combined with WIP's judicious investment in Ireland's leaders of tomorrow. From the outset, I understood that to become the Washington Ireland programme's inaugural writer-in-residence meant that I'd be attempting to discover points of convergence between the spheres of creative writing and the spheres of the WIP student experience. It was an exciting challenge. But from what I knew of the organisation, I expected that a poet might, without much difficulty, find a foothold and even a good temporary home in the world of WIP. Although I am their first writer in residence, for some years there has been an increasing tendency in the programme towards, broadly speaking, cultural and artistic activity. I am not, for example, the first poet to have addressed a WIP class, and the alumni body, as you know, includes policy writers, journalists, editors, founders of literary magazines, painters, designers, musicians, and even a significant cohort of athletes. And this vibrancy seems to reflect a development. Going back 20 years, the programme's early identity as a kind of channel for Irish-American efforts to address the broader social basis of violence and division in Northern Ireland manifested a traditionally strong representation of business, legal and political talents on the programme. Our current Taoiseach, who is about to arrive imminently, many of you will know, is an alumnus of the programme. But the evolution of our challenges here in Ireland and the historically more recent sense of an opportunity for us to begin again to aim for peace and prosperity for the whole island, to begin again to plan for that possibility through the ideal lens of, as it were, tomorrow's leaders, has led WIP quite naturally to an embracing of diversity. And this in turn has led to a cultural and artistic emphasis in the programme, understood as a further bolstering of the egalitarian promise of an emerging Ireland. There is also the sense of the Washington Ireland programme as an organisation inclined to creative pursuits in light of the fact that the student experience in DC and New York is inherently narrative-based. WIP classes engage, as you know, in deep levels of personal and collective reflection, which require imaginative responses and a ready and sensitive vocabulary. There's no doubt that WIP's work is intellectual. It capitalizes, I'm sure you'll agree, capitalizes upon and extends educational drive. And the topics and the themes that are presented to the students often require the exploration of historical records and the gathering and synthesizing of new information. But the challenge of the WIP program experience for its students is also innately a challenge of expression. And the papers that we'll hear and indeed experience this morning are very particular fruit of this fact. To rise to this challenge, WIP students must first figure out how to articulate the reality of their own experience, penetrating that strange and distant land, home. And this, along with grasping the reality of the differences and the common ground that they find with their peers on the programme. Significantly, WIP students undertake this explorative work in an environment where they are being consistently encouraged to articulate a vision of themselves as agents of positive change. It seems to me that success in the programme is partly defined by the extent to which a student has given deep consideration to the idea of what it might mean to choose to shape their lives in terms of a path of leadership and service. There is, as such, in WIP's work, a tremendously authentic orientation towards ethics and dialogue. And as a result, powers of careful language and even new language are always paramount. Being aware of this vibrancy and advance, there was every reason for this writer-in-residence to dive into his residency. And I quickly found myself in discovery mode. This past year in DC and New York and Dublin indeed, I met host families, work placement coordinators, members of WIP's community of supporters, WIP board members and staff, and WIP alumni. Along the way, these people gifted me with many strong impressions. Through their openness to the idea of the writer-in-residence role and through their enthusiastic belief in the personal and societal impactfulness of the organisation itself, they also, as it were, drew me in. In the third verse of the Robert Frost poem, The Road Not Taken, having described the experience of choosing between two roads in a secluded yellow wood, the poem speaker recalls an attempt to convince himself that his decision was not worth deliberating over. Trying to free himself from the anxiety of his ultimate choice, he had deemed the two roads, quote, really about the same. And this complacency is extended when Frost has his speaker say, "Oh, I kept the first road for another day." But then, at the beginning of the next line, Frost places the word yet. And from here, a truer knowledge of the importance of the choice that has been made is presented. Yet, knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. The point being, he knew that his decision, however much a kind of punt in the dark, involved a commitment. Choice and destiny were equal. When at the WIP class of 2016 graduation at Queen's in Belfast in April of this year, I concluded an address by reading The Road Not Taken. It proved to be a very special reading experience for me personally, and I recall that there seemed to be a particular emotional impact in these words. At the gathering that followed the graduation ceremony, there was even a sense that Robert Frost had stolen the show. Those who knew the poem seemed grateful, as if an old friend had turned up to amplify the personal aspects of the occasion, while a number, for whom The Road Not Taken was something new, appeared positively electrified, to the point of marvelling at the ways in which a piece of writing first published 100 years ago could seem to have been tailor-made for that particular night. With respect to the WIP students themselves, I've come to think that The Road Not Taken struck a WIP chord in Belfast because the graduation was putting them in touch with their roots, as much as with the parts of themselves that were concerned with their future prospects. The depth of personal commitment and choice, and the related awareness of unconventionality, which underlies the ways that WIP articulates and promotes the ideals of service and leadership, are nothing short of profound, and they cannot be embraced without the need of reflection and courage. Here is Frost's crescendo of thought and feeling on the fatefulness of the road not taken. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the road less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. We are looking to the future in Merrion Square this morning, and given such a forum, we are perhaps bound to construct symbols of advancement. We are obliged maybe to think in utopian shapes and to speak in utopian tones. We are bound perhaps to feel a kind of desperate regard for our own potential. Again, yet again, we are reaching for the stars. But history tells us that we will need far more than self-regard. History reveals the fact that marvels of complacency lie at the root of the cycles of repetition and regression that have so consistently exploded our dreams of progress. In this setting, which resonates with the historic privileges of Merrion Square, we ourselves enjoy a particular privilege. This morning we're in the presence of young leaders who are keyed up. They are, in the very best sense, at war for the territory of positive change. I believe that if we listen to them, and if we give them our backing, and if we work with them, and if we dare to put ourselves among their number, we will put ourselves in a position to benefit from their vision, from their initiative, and from their creativity, without which, I'm convinced, we can't credibly speak of light on the horizon. Thank you very much. Our Taoiseach has not yet arrived. If he has, he's having a great time.